WhatsApp 287-0971 or Rev-Up office numbers are 572-0383 and 572-0215. Rev-Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Join the United Workers' Party this and every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for an educational and informative program, Meet the Opposition. Participate in exciting discussions from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Be in the know every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Join the United Workers' Party this and every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for an educational and informative program, Meet the Opposition. Participate in exciting discussions from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Be in the know every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
And without further ado, let's say good morning to the host of Meet the Opposition, Ms. Nancy Charles. Ms. Charles, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Andre, and good morning. Good morning, Andre. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to those of you in the diaspora. Good morning to those of you listening to us on the radio on 97.1 FM. Andre, apparently, you know the tradition. Just going to say that here is on a morning, people put the radio on Hot FM after they listen to Joke Bois, then they go through the normal, etc. Mm-hmm. But now 97.1 FM is taking stream, so congratulations.
So I heard.
Yes. On the buses, etc.,
yes.
and so forth. And some of the programming that Rev-Up 97 has been able to come up with. Very interesting programming. So
yes,
Rev-Up is getting there. I would like to say kudos to the United Workers' Party because we were the first ones on board, guys. So we're going to take all the credit for getting Rev-Up to where it is today. Yeah, but you'll agree with that, St. Lucia?
But let me add to what you're saying. I mean, when we first started, a lot of people were reluctant to come on board.
Right.
And you came on board immediately. Mm-hmm. I remember having the discussion with you over the phone.
Yep.
You didn't argue. You didn't say, well... No, you accepted the invitation right away. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for the support.
We're like family. We're like family here. So it's good to be here, Andre. I do, prior to us coming live, you did ask me a question, when are you leaving? Andre is you would swear that Andre is kind of like my husband, like you're leaving again already, like he's so disappointed in Lucia, but unfortunately, like I said, I'm only here for a short while, so I would be leaving. Mm-hmm. So you won't hear my voice for a little while, but certainly perhaps when I come back, we can look. But Spider is going to continue the show, and most likely we may get one or two persons coming in between. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's still a few candidates of the United Workers' Party that you've not met. So hopefully during that time frame, we will be introducing you to some of our newest members for the United Workers' Party. Maybe you've seen them, they've made certain statements, but not formally been introduced to the general public. So we will use Meet the Opposition to do that.
And I know that even if you're not here in a physical sense, in spirit, you'll be...
I always watch, and I don't know if you remember, one of the times that I was out, I did call into the program.
Exactly.
So when I am able to, and I get the chance, I will try to call into the program and to make a contribution. So it's not like I'm just leaving. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember. I know you're a Bible lady. Remember, Elijah was taken to heaven in a fiery chariot, right? And then years later, he wrote a letter to a bad king, a bad boy. Then they let him know, I'm watching you. I'm watching you.
So I'm letting you know that I'm watching you. But that takes me right into my word of encouragement this morning. As I was driving up, I got a lot of traffic all along the way, from home coming all the way. But when I got to the Bad Lil, the traffic was really bad. There was probably some container or whatever. Mm-hmm. There was this long line of traffic. And I had to really speak to myself, to take it easy. And one of the songs that I was listening to as I was coming up was a song that says, to wait on the Lord. And basically, it speaks about patience. And so when I got into that situation in the Bible, I was like, okay, here's where you need to practice patience and to wait. You know, so sometimes, Andrea, we say certain things and we read certain things maybe in the Bible, and there's certain principles that we want to practice. But the practicality of it is when you get into the situation and then you now have to practice what is it you have been taught or read or learned. And waiting on God is something that a lot of times we don't have the patience for. I can certainly say to you that I say to myself all the time, and the Bible says that those who wait on the Lord, they shall renew their strength, you know. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and they will not faint. It means that if you wait on God, all the efforts and everything that you're doing, you're not going to tire from it. You're going to see the benefits and the fruit of it, but you just need to have a little patience. And so this morning, what I want to encourage us is, don't be like me and be too impatient, but for us to have a little bit more patience and waiting on God to come through in certain circumstances. I can certainly tell you in my life, I have seen it happen many times. When the situation arises, I try everything to fix it, you know, Andre. I do everything in my power to fix it. And when I finally realize, you know what, I can't fix it, I can't change it, or I'm like, all right, God, take control and help me with this thing, etc., etc. Because I got to the point where I realized, I can't do it, and then I have to now wait on Him. And then in His own good time, I don't know why, God, maybe when I get to heaven, I'll ask Him that. But sometimes I find that God taking His own slow, really, really, really good time. Like you want it now, and He say, no, take your time, it's okay. I know when to do it, and I know when to let it happen, you know. And so we become a bit impatient. But I want to encourage you this morning that whatever it is you're going through, whatever the circumstances, it can be sickness, it can be financial, it can be trouble in the home, in the family, with a spouse or with a child or whatever, or even in the neighborhood with your neighbor or with your extended family, maybe the in-laws or whatever, you know, maybe it's at work, maybe it's some challenge at work, and you're thinking like, boy, I think I'm going to leave that job because I can't take it no more, and the pressures and all these kind of things are happening. I want to encourage you this morning to wait. Pray and wait. Because I can certainly tell you that the timing of God is not your timing, and certainly He'll come through for you. And I always believe what the Bible says. I try to apply it to my life all the time. And sometimes I'm impatient and do my own thing and find myself in more hot water. But when I do exercise patience and wait on God, it always works out for the better. So I just want to encourage you this morning. Let's try to have a little patience and wait on God. And you know, just like Moses had said to the children of Israel when they were about to cross the Red Sea, and they saw the sea, and they said, oh God, what are we going to do? And He said to them, just stand still and see the salvation of God. See what God is going to do for you. Do you think they ever expected that sea to be parted, Andre? I'm sure they were thinking like God was going to send fire and brimstone, kill the army behind them, all kind of drama thing. Yeah. God didn't do none of that. He just said, listen, stretch out that rod and open the sea, and they just walk through. You know, so sometimes that's what God is waiting to do for you. Just to open that sea that is in front of you so that you can walk through on dry land, not even in mud, on dry land. So just wait.
So can we just spend a little time, if you don't mind, on the issue of the Badalil and these trucks, these long-haul trucks and so on, right? I think we're all being affected by the time we have to take and wait for an appropriate time to overtake those vehicles, especially on the Badalil, right? Last Saturday, I left an activity in Labrie, driving back to the city. That was like around after 3 in the morning, and I met one of those vehicles on that Badalil, right? Minutes to 3 in the morning.
They're trying to...
And I had to wait.
Wow.
And wait. Now, there's some people who take those risks and overtake around those blind corners, but I don't operate like that. I mean, something has to be done about that. And I remember the reason I'm saying to you, let's spend a little time there. I know Sir John had a plan for that.
Well, when Sir John started planning and visioning, it was both for the Badalil and it is also for the tunnel road that we have now. You remember the Labour Party criticized him and they called him and they said that he had tunnel vision.
Yes.
Yeah, and that he couldn't see, because you see, people couldn't imagine. I mean, I can't even remember. I was a young person. I was not born and raised in Castries. I frequented Castries a lot, in Cicero in particular. So I grew up there quite a bit with my extended family I had there. But I can't even remember what that side tunnel road used to look like.
That's true.
Because can you imagine?
That's
Can
true.
you remember what it looked like?
No, I can't.
But when Sir John did indicate that he was going to build, because remember all those container trucks were climbing where? The Mon. And
Well,
that,
more Latok, the
yeah,
Latok
the
area.
Latok area there.
And that was a problem as well.
That was a problem. And he said, listen, we need to create something else to benefit it. And so when we came into office, Andrea, I do want to say to you, we found a vision plan that Sir John had developed with Osbert Dovey. And we found this huge vision plan, and you had quadrants in terms of St. Lucia and broken down. And it was still applicable because nothing in that vision plan, or very little in that vision plan, had already been implemented. And so Alan Chasney, as Prime Minister at the time, decided to look through the vision plan and see what are some of the things in there that Sir John had the vision back then that we could look to working and implementing. And one of them was the road, starting the road from at the top by Kilagu area there. Remember, there was supposed to be this main road that cuts across, and then it cuts through Dennery and through the side of the Badlin area there, and you come out all the way through Dennery. And so one of the reasons we had undertaken that road infrastructure in terms of the highway, the Grozile Highway, and we had the plan to put that roundabout, that walk over, entering into Rodney Bay, and we extended the road all the way up to the Kilago area, is because the plan on the vision for Alan Chasney was to implement that vision. And so you would have cut that road across all the way, and you would find yourself all the way down in Dennery. You wouldn't have to go through the Badlil, etc., and so forth. So that was the vision and the plan of Sir John, and that vision still remains, and it's still there. But you see, we have a Labour Party administration who has restricted St. Lucians in dreaming, in having a vision, in wanting better. What they've done is restricted us to this mediocrity, and things are okay the way they are, and let's just keep it how it is. And so when Alan Chasney came up with a lot of those plans and development for St. Lucia, and we said we were going to build a new St. Lucia, create a new St. Lucia, make it different, and so forth, people criticize him for that. And that is one of the issues that you're complaining about, that had we done something about it, and had the Labour Party continued with that vision, perhaps today, I don't know that the road would have been completed. We started the feasibility study. I remember a Canadian company came down, they spent a lot of time, and they started feasibility study in terms of where to cut the road, how it should go, etc. All of that was already in train, but the Labour Party just stopped that. And so you can see for sure St. Lucia, and everybody can see it for themselves, Andrew. I'm sure you can agree that majority of the development that has taken place in St. Lucia over the last 60, 70 years has been under United Workers' Party. The vision, the road development, the infrastructure, the water, the pipelines, all the buildings, the Rodney Bay area, the Viewfort, all those things has been as a result of the vision from Sir John and under a United Workers' Party. Very little does the Labour Party has to show in development and infrastructural development in this country, which is why last week when I took a swipe at Kenny Anthony, I mean, everybody in St. Lucia knows Kenny has done a few things. It's not like he has not done anything, but there's nothing substantive. As somebody who came with so much intelligence, he was considered to be one of the brightest and smartest, most intelligent, etc., and nothing substantive to show. And he's leaving, you understand? So that's why I took a swipe. But I don't want to dwell on Kenny Anthony, but I just wanted to answer you, to let you know, Andre, there are answers to those problems. There are plans, so you don't have to go back to the drawing board. There are plans there already. All that needs to be done is any government that comes in that has a vision and a plan for developing this country, they can pick up that document, look at it. Maybe you may tweak it slightly, change it slightly, because it was done a few years ago. But the point is that there is a plan that you can look at and say, oh, okay, maybe today because of new technologies we can do it better and we can do it that way, etc. But we do not have to go through the Badlil, because anything that happens in the Badlil, you remember Debbie? Was it Debbie?
Anything can go wrong there.
Anything that happens there,
whatever.
anything,
It's a mess.
and we cut off. You cut off. You cut off from the south of the island because that's the only way out. And there's no way you can run a country like that, Andre. You need a second exit out of the city, out of Grosley, out of North to go down south. It cannot be the bad
So you're saying those plans are still there?
They're still there.
Right. So no doubt.
It was this huge book. Watch my hand. It was really long. I can remember this book when we got it. Was on the Prime Minister's desk. We got it. Long book. It was called Visioning 20-something or whatever it was. I can't remember the name, but it was a vision plan. It had St. Lucia cut into 4 quadrants, and there were development plans for each quadrant of the island.
So no doubt, if your party wins the next elections, you will go back to this.
I am hoping that Alan Chasney will not give up when he becomes the next Prime Minister of St. Lucia. Perhaps he will take it in strides and look at it and pace it a little bit more. But I am sending out the challenge to him because I know he's listening and members of the party are listening, that this would be one of the things that when we get back into government that we will take up at the soonest and start planning and working on it. I don't know that we have money. I don't know what. You know what somebody sent to me yesterday, Andre? Somebody sent me a voice note and say, Nancy, let me tell you something. I was thinking about something. How y'all going to clean up that mess when y'all get back into government? Where y'all going to get money to fix these things and all these problems and these issues? Oh my God, I don't know how you're going to do this and what you're going to do. But these are some of the things people are already thinking about. How are we going to fix all those problems and those comments that the Labour Party is doing to this country? And it is going to be a challenge. But I am hoping that, like I said, Alan Chasney will pick up that vision plan again and revisit it, look at it, because it was a really comprehensive development.
And I think we all agree it needs to be addressed. It wastes too much time. Yes. Whether you are ascending or descending the battle, it's just wasting a lot of time. Now, let me ask you another question, very important question. Was universal secondary education started under the Labour Party administration?
Yes, it was.
All right,
yeah.
You confirm
it was an initiative of the St. Lucia Labour Party. I think when St. Lucia Labour Party came in 1997, you still had a few secondary schools who were on a shift system because the population was growing and we did not have enough secondary school places. So the Labour Party initiated the building of a few secondary schools. I can't recall how many. The PRO can come and tell you how many. But they did initiate the building or the construction of a few additional secondary schools so that they could take everybody off the shift system. And then they introduced the language. It's a language they more or less introduced to say universal secondary school education, meaning that every child has an opportunity now to go to secondary school. And why did that happen is because if you have limited space, Andre, then the screening process becomes more stringent. But if you have more space and extra space, then the screening process becomes a little bit more lax and more opportunities for children to go into a secondary school. So I benefited from that. I can remember, I think I when I went to primary school and I wrote common entrance, I passed the first time, but there were students who were in my group because they didn't make the grade or the mark. They were given an opportunity to write common entrance a second time. And so you find that there were persons who were my age. I would have gone secondary school before them, and they were behind me, a year behind me, but that's because the first time they didn't pass, and you had to give them a second chance. So with the advent of universal secondary school education, I think much of that was eliminated, that no matter what was the mark you got, you would go to a secondary school. The problem it created and the challenge it created was that you now had schools who were considered to be upper schools and schools who were considered to be lower schools. So students who had a lower mark, you bulk all of them into one secondary school, some place you know you're going to have problems. Because if let's say 90% of the population of that school are students who are operating below 20% or whatever, Andre, for sure, you know you're going to have a challenge. And so over the years, they've tried to fix it to say, okay, stay within the school in your area, in your community, etc. But it still doesn't work. It's like nobody wanted to send the child to Angers and PI Secondary School and John Odlum and Denier Riviere. That's the fact and the truth of it, because it was considered to be a school where all these children were substandard, they were not bright, they were not smart, etc. That's the reality. Whether it's true or not is debatable, but that's what people thought. So they would put all the other secondary schools before they put those schools. Yeah. Now they've changed them now into TVET institutions. I will find out a little bit more about it because I've not really gone in depth about it. But I'll try and find out a bit more about it and how it operates and how it works. Maybe someday I will explain, But maybe that's for as well the government to explain how it works, how students are admitted into those places, because it's 4 schools and it's spread out. So let's say one of the schools is a construction school. Let's say it's Dong South in Angers or PI or one of them. Right? But I am from Castries and I want to do construction TVET. How do I get to go to the school in Angers? You understand? I don't know how it works. I don't understand it. So these are some of the questions I would want to ask.
So wouldn't you agree then that's probably one of the great things that Dr. Kenny Anthony instituted?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I'm saying so because I know you said he did some things.
Yeah, man. Wonderful. It was a good opportunity to ensure that more students had access to secondary school education. And you know that some students are slow learners, Andre. Sometimes not everybody is as smart as, the others, and they get it in one go. So they would be able to pass the first time, but they need to do it a second time and so forth, etc. But we're way away from that now. We have evolved a lot from that. Okay, I have another very, very important question for you.
Yes. Now, I one thing I like about you, let me say so publicly. Whenever I tell you I have a question for you, even before we start the show, you don't tell me, Andre, what is it? Right?
No, I don't really ask.
So you can prepare. So I'm very happy that you take the questions off the cuff.
Andre always catches me on the fly. He thinks that I know a little bit of everything. Let's see if I know this one.
Exactly. Okay, can you just tell us whether there was a court order, an injunction preventing the demolition of the old custody suites? Can you confirm that? And if that is true, why did your administration basically go against a court order, if that is true?
Andre, I need to double check on that one, because I remember I was a member, a representative of the United Workers' Party, or the government at the time, on the board of the National Trust. So we had 2 representatives. The government had 2 representatives. So I was one of those representatives. And I recalled the day I was down south when I got the call that the chairman of the board of the National Trust had applied to the court to file an injunction to stop the demolition of the custody suites, etc. I don't know, and I don't want to say yes or no as to whether the court had given the injunction or not, but I do know that the demolition of the custody suite had started, was almost near completion or something like that, and so forth. So I don't know that one. Oh my God, you stumped me on that one, and I don't want to say yes or no and give you wrong information. So perhaps if political leader or anybody in the know is listening, you all can message me and give me the response to that one as to whether the court did give the injunction. But I know the injunction was filed. For sure, I know it was filed because I did have a discussion with the chairman, the then chairman at the time, and Mr. Tulsi, because when I got word and I was told that they had filed an injunction, and I was not aware since I was a board member, I called to inquire of it, etc., and so forth. So there was an injunction filed. However, I cannot confirm that the court did grant the injunction or not.
Okay.
So I would certainly need
somebody.
And
if the opposition leader is listening, he's invited.
Yes.
He can call.
He can call or he can send me a message and let me know, yes, it was filed, and so forth, and maybe we can give an explanation.
Because that was said on Meet the Minister last week.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
That's
all
what
right.
I'm bringing in.
And I can't debunk that one. How come I did? You see, the thing is, last week I did not listen to the program in its entirety because Mr. Fenelon did not have a guest, really. I did not listen in its entirety. But what I can say to St. Lucian's for sure, I've listened to him quite a few times. I've listened to him on another talk show that he was with Shelton Daniel. And very, very, very few things that come out of the mouth of Mr. Fenelon is factual. He exaggerates a lot of things. He mixes up a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of propaganda that was out there of things that was said leading up to the last election about UWP. And he repeats a lot of them. And that's why last week I also said he was a former school principal, and you have to have some credibility in what you say. So my good friend Urban Delors, who's former principal of Sir Arthur, etc. We've had many debates, etc. But what I can say to you, Urban gets his facts and his substance. Of course, he's supportive of the Labour Party, and of course, he will give his perspective, swing in towards the Labour Party. But most of the time, it's factual, and that is what I think I would require of Mr. Fenelon. As a former principal, you have children out there listening who would have looked up to you, etc. Do like me, do some research, get your facts. Don't come on the program with the propaganda that the Labour Party Party was spreading and repeat it. Go get your facts, and then you can come out and give the correct information.
Would you like to share some of those inconsistencies?
No, not at this time, because I have quite a few things that I want to get through.
Okay, all right, it's your show.
In terms of my program, but I mean, I'm just throwing it out there for him. But Andre, last week we had the opening of the custody suites, which is what we spoke about. And I was thinking, we are talking about development and the development of this country. And very few things that we can credit to the Labour Party in terms of development. One of the things we can credit them for is prisons and police station. And that says a lot, perhaps, to me about the mindset of a government, because if the thing that you can be credited for the most is building police stations and building prisons and spending over $14 million to rebuild custody. And when I said to somebody and I explained to them, Andre, we spent $14 million over the last 4 years for a vendetta to build 8 holding cells, St. Lucia. Are you aware of that, St. Lucia? To build 8 holding cells. All right? Just so you know, over 14, I'll get the correct amount one of these days. I'll send it to you, Andre, and I just don't want to say. But I know it's over $14 million because the cost was exaggerated. The initial cost was supposed to be $4 million or something, Andre, and all of a sudden it boomed. And up to now, maybe that's a question that we can ask when we have meet the minister. How did the cost of custody suite, and do we think that it was worth in value taking over $14 million and taking all these millions of dollars to build 8 holding cells to put prisoners in? It's not a prison, St. Lucia. You remember I spoke to you about the difference between a jail and prison and cell, etc. It's a holding cell where Andre has been picked up on the streets for misbehaving, and the police has cautioned him and he's misbehaving and getting on. They will take Andre and put him in that holding cell for 48 hours or 24 hours till he calm down or cool down, or till they charge him officially and then take him either to bodily or release him on bail, etc. A holding cell. And we thought that was priority. That was priority because Alan Chasney break it down and mash it down. Let me tell you something. Alan Chasney break down and mash down the bridge in Sulphur. Y'all remember the one-way bridge in Sulphur? And y'all remember how much pressure the Labour Party gave to Alan Chasney at the time. He mashed up the bridge. And today, because Alan Chasney mashed up that bridge, we have a 2-way bridge in Sulphur. You remember, Andre, you had to stop, wait for one vehicle to go, stop for another, etc. But because he said enough is enough, we have to change. Sometimes you have to take drastic decision, and the drastic decision to break down custody suite. St. Lucia, I'll never let you all forget, because we cannot celebrate that. Custody suite was used as a punishment. Remember, Andre, you were a reporter at the time. When police officers had personal vendettas against certain people, they will pick them and they say, Nafuto custody suite. You know why? Because that was a hellhole for St. Lucian. Rat infested, cockroach infested, no toilet facility, buckets there, etc., smelling. And when I heard the Prime Minister say that police officers are supposed to work in a conducive environment, do you think, Mr. Prime Minister, that custody suite at the time was a conducive environment for police officers to work in? As a matter of fact, the rumor was that when you didn't like a police officer and the hierarchy wanted to punish them, you know what they do, Andre? They would send them to work at custody suites. So it was a punishment hellhole for St. Lucians. It was a punishment hellhole for police officers. They couldn't wait for that thing to be demolished. You understand? And today, you want to celebrate that. You understand? You want to celebrate that today, that you build back custody suite, you spend millions of dollars when you couldn't spend $500,000, which is what I'm going to get, to keep the K9 unit. You see the hypocrisy of it, Andre? You could spend millions of dollars to go back and build a holding cell, 8 holding cells, and for you to praise and everything like that. But when you came into office, you had a K9 unit with 2 dogs owned by St. Lucians. St. Lucia, I want you to remember that. The dogs were trained and owned by St. Lucians. The first thing Ernest Hiller said when he came into office, they disbanded it. And Ernest Hiller himself was the one who said it. He said, do you know who the owners of the dog is and how much it costs to think the dog? It's too expensive. It was too expensive to keep the dogs that we had empirical evidence that they were doing their job, Andre. We had empirical evidence. The commissioner of police had come on television, national television, to speak to the success of the dogs, how many firearms, how many drug busts, and they said that the dogs were able to pay themselves based on all these things. He all disbanded it because he was a St. Lucian, and it is perceived, it was perceived that he's a UWP. You see, when you talk about vindictiveness, and the Prime Minister said, these people, who's vindictive? All right? And we stayed years without the K9 unit. You had no justification for it. And today, you want to come and boast of the dog, the one dog you get from the French people that borrow you a dog. You want to boast of it. Today, there was a bust. 17 firearms recovered in one bust, Andre. In one. 17 and over 3,000 rounds of ammunition by the dog. Can you imagine, St. Lucia, if these people were not vindictive and they had kept the K9 unit when they came into office? Can you imagine the number of guns that would not be on the streets over the last 2 to 3 years? Can you imagine the number of lives that would have been saved, Andre? The number of people who would not have died. The number of mothers would not be on television crying because they shot their son or they shot their daughter. Innocent people who were killed. Even women were killed, Andre. That young lady who came from work was shot and killed on her way to her home for her babies. That other young girl who was, running away. Can you imagine, Andre? If we had kept the K9 unit, but we can spend millions of dollars to go back and build custody suites to show a lesson, It's a lesson. Alan Chasney mash it up and we build it back. That's all. Bragging rights. Bragging rights. All right? And all the time, you spending those millions of dollars trying to rebuild custody suite to put your people in jail. Okay, EU is suffering. They didn't have Panadol. They don't have a basic machine. They don't have antibiotics. They don't have needles. You understand, Andre? While you spending millions of dollars to build back a prison, and you want me to celebrate that? We should be embarrassed and ashamed. Nobody should have gone to that ceremony to celebrate that when we have other problems in this country that you could have used those millions of dollars to solve. You could have paid off some of the bills of EU. You left it there, sorry, Andre. You left it there for years. When you came into office, EU had outstanding debts, and we acknowledge that. COVID was there, and they needed supplies. You left it there for 2 years. You did nothing. On the third year, you give them a TLAV to pay it down. But you could have commissioned right away custody suite. Because I have to teach Alan Chasney a lesson. I have to show him. He break down custody suite, and I building it back. You understand? Vindictiveness. That's what it is. Spending our money on things like that while the people in the hospital suffering. While you go to the health center and there's no basic medication for them. While the Medical and Dental Association writes this scathing letter to speak to the conditions that they are working under. But you have millions of dollars to spend on 8 holding cells and you want to celebrate. Celebrate what? What's there to celebrate? Celebrate, you're not creating employment for your people so they can get jobs, and then when they break the law, you instead of using money to create employment for them, you know what you do? You use money to create jails for them. That's what's priority and what's important. Create a jail for them so we can bring them into the jail.
But Nancy, wouldn't it be a good time to explain to our listeners and viewers the reason for demolishing custody suites?
I said that last week.
Knowing that there would be an issue with where you're going to house those detainees. This is a major issue, and this is what the Labour Party has been saying.
There was never an issue. There was never an issue, and I said that last week as well. Custody suite, when I did my research, they didn't even have 8 holding cells. They've built 8 holding cells. They had less than 8. I think it was about 4 or 5 holding cells that they had. All right? You had the Masha police station. You had Marigo. You had this holding place down in Ancillary, you had Grosley, etc. So when the discussion was held with the hierarchy of the police force, because it was not just the administration did not just break down custody suite. Remember, for years we had been in discussion with the judiciary about the courts and having the proper courts. And we could not find place to house the proper courts. Remember, the courts was along, I don't know if it's still there, by Napa there, etc. We spent millions of dollars renovating. Then initially we had discussion taking them to the Daher Mall because we had disagreement with them and it was not conducive. A lot of the locations that were discussed with the judiciary, because you had to get approval from the judiciary as to where the court is going to be for security purposes, accessibility, it was not conducive. And so when the discussion came to say, okay, well, why don't we house it there, right where custody suites and police headquarters is, etc. There's a huge space. We did some feasibility, they did some drilling, etc., to see if it was conducive, and they said, okay, that would work. And so a design was constructed. They had a design for the building, for the space. You were going to have the courthouse, there were going to be holding cells down in the basement, there were going to be police headquarters. So it was going to be a combination. And so for sure, we didn't just go and demolish custody suite because it was so bad just for demolishing sake, Andre. The bigger plan was that this is where the halls of justice was going to be. And so when you demolish custody suite and we would have started construction, let's say it takes 3 or 4 years, the police hierarchy indicated, don't worry, nothing is better than staying in that little hellhole. We will find place there's sufficient, hold, because remember, it's just a holding cell you need, Andre. 24 hours, 48 hours, not jail. For how long? And the hierarchy of the police at the time gave the assurance to the Prime Minister that we have sufficiently, because you catch one person, you send them there. You call one, you send them there. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? St. Lucia is small, Andre. It's 5 minutes to go down there and 10 minutes to go up there and whatever. We acting as if St. Lucia is like a Miami. You have to drive 45 minutes and an hour, to get thing. What's wrong with getting them to a holding cell in another location? They don't have to be held in the city. But you see, we don't have the vision, and we want to make it seem like it was such a problem. Well, and when you ask the Prime Minister the question, you know what he said? Well, I don't know, I wasn't there at the time. That's his excuse. That's a cop-out. Because we were assured by the hierarchy of the police that there is sufficient space to hold prisoners for the 24, 48 or whatever hours, and that they would make do, because what they were looking for was a proper facility, Andre, and they were willing to make those sacrifices.
So okay, do you think that maybe that was not communicated to those who are supposed to be detaining individuals and so on? It was communicated
to everybody.
Because if that be the case, then maybe they were playing games with your party.
Course, maybe they were.
Because the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister said that they would take these detainees to different, he mentioned them on, right?
And just let them go. Can you imagine?
There was insufficient space.
Let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question. Andre, do you believe, so let's look at this realistically, all right? Do you believe that the Commissioner of Police, who is going to come, and the deputy and the hierarchy of the police is going to come, sit down at a proper meeting with the Prime Minister and say to the Prime Minister, we hold criminals and we have to let them go? You don't know that this is an indictment on the officers themselves because they are doing something wrong?
Right, exactly.
So it may have been sometimes something somebody said, a person, some joke somebody gives somewhere or whatever. And maybe it does happen, but I don't know that it was happening because there was no space to hold them, Andre.
Because that is the impression that we've been given, that there was no space to hold them.
So people say things to suit their narrative and their circumstances. That's one thing I can tell you. And listening to the Prime Minister, to Hile, everybody on the Labour Party, these people are expert at tweaking and changing things, creating a narrative to suit their circumstance at the time. So I believe a word the Prime Minister say. And trust me, I don't believe that the police hierarchy ever reported to the Prime Minister to say, we holding the people, but because we don't have space, we take them to the mall, we caution them and we drop them go. Markway Odisa.
But Nancy, shouldn't we, whether it's this current Prime Minister or the Prime Minister before, should we just give them the benefit of the doubt that they're being honest?
So shouldn't you give the United Workers' Party and Alan Shastney the benefit of the doubt that he was honest as well?
That's exactly right.
So if we do that, then we give everybody the benefit of the doubt. At the time, We give the benefit of the doubt to Prime Minister Alan Chasney that the hierarchy informed him that there was sufficient space all over. Because there is not sufficient space in town, they said there was sufficient space, 111 all over, that they could have held them until we built the new structure. And if we give Alan Chasney the benefit of the doubt, then yes, let's give Pip the benefit of the doubt as well. But one can't go without the other.
I don't think they doubted what the former Prime Minister said. I don't think they doubted it.
They do. They did.
They're just saying
no, he made it seem that Alan Chasney was lying, that nobody never told Alan Chasney that there was no space. He did. Don't give excuses for him, Andre.
No, I'm asking, so how did he do that?
But the impression and the way he spoke it, listen, you don't have to call somebody a liar and say he lied for people to say that you call him a liar. The way you speak and the impression you create and what you say, it's suggesting to people that this person was not speaking the truth. And that's what the Prime Minister suggested, that Alan Chasney was not speaking the truth and that nobody ever gave Alan Chasney that information. He gave that impression many times, every time he spoke about it. You understand? And I do have to say that's not true. The police hierarchy did give Prime Minister Alan Chasney the guarantee at the time that there was sufficient space all over to keep these people. But I don't want to spend too much time on that.
No, but it's important because you've been your
yes,
party
and
slash government has been criticized for
that. They will choose to believe whichever one they want and whoever they think is speaking the truth. I can say to St. Lucia that Alan Chasney did not demolish the custody suite just because of demolition's sake. We had a plan, we presented it, and as a matter of fact, when we did the halls of justice, I showed you the plan, I showed you the costing for that plan, the design, everything was already in place to build the new halls of justice in that space. And again, what? Vindictiveness. Because Alan Chasney was the one who identified the space, they wanted to do it in the city. It didn't work out in the city. Instead of saying, okay, let's go back to the original plan and build it there, they paid over, how many million it was, Andre? 13.5 million for a little piece of spot there. That's what you'll have to ask the question.
By the way, you promised to follow up on that as to how that figure was arrived at.
I did. I tried to make some inquiries. Everybody mouth shut, Andre. And nobody talking.
And
nobody talking in this country. But I'm happy, Andre, sorry. The truckers are talking. I'm happy they are talking. And it's time for St. Lucians to rise up. Let me tell you something, St. Lucia. Whether you support UWP, Labour Party, yourself or whatever, you have at some point in time to stand up and take a stand for you and for your country. And so people might be thinking that what is happening in the docks is initiated by UWP. Nothing to do with us. People are taking the initiative on their own because enough is enough. People are taking the initiative, the ILA workers, which I will get to in a little while, are taking the initiative because enough is enough. We have something in St. Lucia saying in Creole, say munsa last moon musty pay layo. People are tired of people coming in this country or working in this country, public servants, statutory corporations, anybody just taking advantage of them. And people are beginning to realize that I have a voice and I can speak out and I can stand up. And on election day, I can still go and vote for the same Labour Party. But at the end of the day, I can stand up and say, boy, that ain't right, that ain't working, fix it. But that's a fear we have in this country, you know, Andre. Because I support in D party. That's my party. I ain't saying nothing. And I feeling the squeeze. I taking it hard. But I not saying nothing because it's my party, D party.
Let me ask you something about that. This morning we had a story about, I think, a development in the Marigo Bay area. And I think a vendor was weighing in, saying that they've been asked to move out and so on, this sort of thing. He was complaining. But what I found interesting about the story, and this has been going on for quite a while. Let me just get your take on that, because it seems to happen under all administrations, that the person had, his voice had to be disguised. Okay? Why is it that in St. Lucia, a little country like St. Lucia, that we find ourselves in that kind of position where we are afraid to, as you said a while ago, to take a stand, to speak out, and we have to disguise our voice?
Because of the victimization, Andre.
That's what I'm saying to you, and this happens under all the administrations. That has to stop.
Because
why should St. Lucians who vote for a party to put you in office have to be afraid of you?
Well, let me tell you something. Nancy ain't afraid of them. I'm not afraid of Alan Chesney, not afraid of UWP, not afraid of Philip JP and no Labour Party. Whatever I have to say, I am going to say it. I'll be respectful. However, there are certain things that I will say in private and certain things that I will say out there in public. Sometimes you have a problem in your family, Andre, you don't go and blast it to the whole wide world. You can go to a family meeting and say, listen, family, we need to have a meeting to fix this thing. So it's timing, time and place, etc. But in general, I think St. Lucians are just very much, listen, we're out canvassing, canvassing meaning doing house to house and speaking to people. And the things people tell you that is going on, and everybody is on edge, Andre. People are walking on eggshells in this country. Kenny Anthony said it, he didn't want people to walk on eggshells. People are walking on eggshells in this country because they are afraid if they speak out. You see the little lavie they have? The little job they give them, the little nice or step or whatever they're giving them, if they dare say, they're going to take it from them. And let me give you an example. There's an example of a person in Viewfort South. You understand? This person was given a contract to do a particular job and has been doing this thing over the last couple of years or whatever. I think the contract was given to him by the Labour Party. So Lady Lee was out doing her canvassing, etc. And they were on Facebook Live, and the gentleman, was with Lady Lee saying, she support Lady Lee good and etc. Andre, within 1 week, except this disapavwe, janvier for disapavwe. She's of them when the plea by and the kill within 1 week of this video circulating, this gentleman was called up by the Viewfort Town Council to say, oh, well, they are restructuring the program, and, he'll not be doing this particular thing anymore. I don't want to go into specific because people will know, but he'll not be doing this thing anymore, etc., and so forth. And so they took him off the thing, and the thing is just there, and somebody else is doing it, etc., etc. 1 week, Andre. 1 week it took for Mr. What's his name? Wayne Cumberbatch. These are the people who play high and senti and holy. That's the victimization, Andre. So when we go out canvassing and we meet people, people support the UWP and they want to support the candidates that we have. But they tell you, I can't come out in public, I can't come to the meeting and etc. But I'll just support you because they're afraid of the victimization. They're afraid of losing their job. They're afraid of losing the benefits. They're afraid of all kinds of things in this country. But one thing I can tell you, that only happening when Labour in power. When UWP in power, yo denye kapali. Boost tout moun ouve, strike cafe, tout moun kapali. Because UWP don't engage in that kind of things. But Labour Party, oh Lord my God, have mercy. Have mercy. But it happened just a couple of weeks ago. It happened right there in Viewfort South. So that's why, Andre, people are disguising their voice, don't want to show their face, etc., etc. Because the victimization under the St. Lucia Labour Party is very, very, very real.
Nancy, it's whether you want to believe it or not, it happens under both administrations.
No, I will not deny it.
Yeah, that people, whoever that person may be, they feel that if I speak out, right, I will be victimized. And what I'm saying is that should not be happening in this country. Whether it's this administration, the other one, that should not be happening. People should be feeling free enough to speak their mind and not have to worry about being victimized. That is just not cool. It's just not cool.
I agree. I'm just a lot of messages that I am getting this morning. Oh, somebody gave me the correct thing for custody suite. It was initially it was $1.5 million, Andre, and it went up to $4.5 million just to build yield holding cells. And then if you ask people who the contractor is, that's a different story. That's another story. All right, that's another story. But I'm getting a lot of messages this morning. People are sending me messages and so forth. But Andre, let me tell you,
are they being nice?
Yes. Let me tell you something. Andre, let's go to the Mount Pima thing and what's happening there. I sent you a few video clips, so I really want to take a little moment to go over it because I could not believe, Andre, when I heard the story, like the Friday, and I saw the workers, and I was like, but that ain't making sense. How the fellas had been working. The first thing that came to mind, I was like, how the fellas had been working, and all of a sudden, I remember you asked me about Mount Pima last time.
Yes.
And I told you I wasn't too sure. And then political leader messaged me to indicate to me that it was on the UWP administration that we had purchased the land and gone for the transaction, etc. And somebody reminded me during the week, and we couldn't get the tape, but how Richard Frederick had vilified Alan Chasney for purchasing that property. Remember, Richard went to town on Alan for this. And today, you know which is the biggest project they're speaking about? That same project. As a matter of fact, every single project that Alan Chasney initiated, they opposed. Cabot, and that's what they're praising today. Montpima, that's what they're praising today. Sandals, give us our money. That's what they're praising today. I brought it there, today. I brought it for you all to see the Prime Minister speaking about those investments.
So just to be sure, Montpima was started under the
UWP administration.
Okay.
Yeah, Alan Chasney was the one who initiated it, bought the property, the land, I think it was in receivership or something like that, and so forth. But really, it was initiated under UWP, and we were taken to town on it. I think it was a deal that Alan had made in terms of purchasing that land, and remember the shock land by St. James, etc., and so forth, and that kind of thing. So through Invest St. Lucia or something like that. And they had vilified him for it. But these were things, Alan was looking at, this is St. Lucian land, and you do not want it to go away into certain hands, etc. And I think Invest St. Lucia made a very, very nice profit on the purchase of those properties as well. But that's the vision again. The vision of Prime Minister Alan Chasney, that we would have purchased the land and now we had an opportunity to resell it and invest in it and make investments and make money. You understand? You buy this up, yes, Andre? You buy this up. But let me tell you something. So let's play some of the clips in term, and you can play it in the same order that I sent it to you, Andre. I just want St. Lucians to hear it again. They may have heard it on the news, but let's play it again.
Arrived at the Isla Resorts construction site on Friday morning and learned that their agreed wage of $180 stipulated in their contracts had been reduced to $100.
Today we come there. At least the white man can come out there and say, okay, guys, if you all cannot work for $100, I will give you all $150. I will give you all $160. I cannot pay $180. That will be right. Nobody will walk away from the job. But he refused to do that. Like we are dogs, we are animals, and he don't care with us. That's what he said to us. Take it or leave it. I have buyed your government already. I have paid your government. And he has nothing to do with that again. And that's where he's done. He's not paying us $180. It's $100. And as I say to them, I don't care. They can fire me. I know my right. I'm a St. Lucians. And I'll stand for my right. I will not let no investor come to St. Lucia and disrespect my tradesmen, our workers in St. Lucia. No.
I live in my home and work is at 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And then reach late, sometimes they fire you. If you reach like 8:30, they say you could not work. And for 180, now the laborers supposed to be at least 120. Because everything check up. And then from $180 to $100, I find that's not good.
A former employee spoke with Newsworld about the conditions under which workers were made to operate. According to her, employees were expected to work without a single day off. Those who attempted to take time off were threatened with termination.
If you go to the office and you say anything about maybe you got short paid or something, so they would create a problem, and the first thing that would come out of their mouth, the government is on our side. And this is really not a good thing when the investors are telling you government is on their side. So it's like you would complain and say something and it would not go anywhere. They were even asking us not to allow the media to come on the site or labor department. But why? Why? I spoke to them about protective gear and all of that. They say that's not their problem. But when the media is coming there, when they have their big tours, they would provide the workers with hard hats and the vests and everything. So that means they have it in storage, but they just don't give it to the workers.
So, Andre, I wanted Lucia to listen, just understand some of the concerns that the workers has raised. The workers raised the question of reduction in pay. And what the gentleman said was, the gentleman didn't mind a reduction in pay, What he did say was, at least there should have been some consultation. You come and you say, okay, we were paying you X amount of money. We can't afford that anymore. We'll pay you that. And there will be a dialogue. But there was no dialogue. They were just told, this is your pay. And I want you to listen. 2 separate persons indicated that, you know what the company said? Your government, I pay your government already. The government is on our side. You understand? 2 separate people would not have made that statement, Andre, in 2 separate statements. You understand? If something was not said. You understand? And I was like, maybe that's not true. Maybe they just say that. But when we play the clip on Onesile, you will see what the people said was true. That's number 1. Number 2, no safety attire. How is it possible, Andre, that you have this huge work site and people are complaining that the workers don't have hard hat, they don't have the safety attire, and all this kind of thing? What is this in 2024 in St. Lucia?
They also, I think they also, the lady also said that the media wasn't allowed on the site.
But they didn't want the media on site
the Labor
and
Department
no Labor Department on site.
These
This
are
is
serious,
critical. These are serious allegations.
Yeah.
Agreed. And listen, the most serious of them was, she said that no NIC was being paid for the workers on this big site.
And also they
that
said...
stuck out to me.
They also said about no days off.
No days off. Workers are expected to work 24/7, 7 days a week. And if you ask for a day off to go and do your business or whatever, you are being fired, you've been terminated. What is this? What slavery thing is happening here in this country?
If those workers are
If those were true. If those were true. But here's the thing, Andrew.
Because even the NIC, as you said, the NIC...
No NIC being paid? What is this? So NIC isn't NIC, Andre. What I know of NIC is that there is an officer attached to NIC for each zone or area. And they're supposed to visit work sites at random. They're supposed to come to Rev-Up and check. Andre, we check in to see, do you know if NIC, they ask you questions as employees, etc. They do verification. So nobody in the how many months, 9 months, 10 months, almost a year, construction is happening there. Not one person from NIC has gone up there to verify and check to see if these workers NIC were being paid. Not one. Not one. Not one person from Labor Department ever come and take a little thing on the work site to see, make sure the fellas have hard hats and there's safety issues, proper scaffolding, etc. Andre, God forbid, I don't know if any happened. Can you imagine an incident happening on site and somebody falling, losing their life, breaking an arm or whatever because there's no safety gears? You understand? So all these things were serious concerns. And I thought,
And there's also something else that's very, very, very important. One of the gentlemen speaking says that the company said to them that they bought the government.
That's what he said. That's serious allegation. So let's play the clip. I think I sent you a clip with Onesile. I don't know if it's the second or the third one.
You told me go in
yeah,
order.
Because please play the second one.
All right, sorry.
So that
by some local laborers.
The developer has been one of the most accommodating persons that have ever done a project in St. Lucia, and he virtually employed just as many people that came looking for employment. And when you do come to state your employment, you are required to state what your skills are. So persons registered as masons, carpenters, different levels of specialization, and they will pay the rate in accordance with what they registered as. As the project developed and construction continued, they realized that some people really don't have the skills that they claim to be.
According to the Atlas Group, the changes to the pay structure, including both reductions and increases, were implemented following a performance review.
If you say you're a tradesman and you're a mason and they're paying you $180 a day, and they realize for the last, whatever the period of time, you really don't have that skill set. So there was a review of the skill sets and the different persons and an adjustment. If you really was not a carpenter or a tradesman like you said the point was, look, we have to adjust your pay, and you're prepared to go through a training program to make sure you upskill, and then for you to get the rightful pay. So some persons who were below actually got increases in pay, and some persons who really were not delivering, they were told they had to go back to their skills level.
The developer stated that the reviews were necessary to ensure that construction work meets the luxury standards expected of Isla resorts.
Yeah. If there's one thing I must tell you that the developer really puts emphasis on is training of persons in part.
Okay.
Right. So, St. Lucia, I want you all to listen to what the minister said. First of all, I don't know that it was Minister Ernest Hille who should be responding to some of these allegations. It should have been the minister responsible for labor or someone from the labor department. That's number one. So I do want to say to the reporters that this matter is not over. Y'all need to go to the labor department and try to interview somebody in a senior position at the labor department to find out whether the labor department knew what was going on there, whether anybody reported, whether they did any site visit to find out what was going on.
The NIC as well.
And
You would
NIC
agree.
as
Yeah?
well, because again, these are serious allegations. But Andrea, this is what I thought the minister would have responded to. Did you hear the minister respond to anything with reference to the safety attire?
No.
Did you hear the minister respond to anything with reference to the non-payment of NIC? Did you hear the minister respond? What did the minister respond to? The minister responded by making excuses for the developer. So it suggests to me that the comments that the two separate workers made, that the government is on our side, we've paid the government, we buy the government, etc., is true.
So do you think those statements have actually reached his ears?
Of course, because he would have heard the interview the Friday. He would have heard the interview because this happened the Friday, Andre. And so on the Monday press briefing, he would have had to respond to it. Don't tell me the minister is not listening to news, Andre? And don't tell me people the same way people WhatsApping to them. You know, while I'm on air, that they WhatsApping to some of them and say, Nancy on air, Nancy on your head, Nancy talking about you. You know that, right? So they have their zealot that would send them the story and say, hey, look, this thing is happening there. What about this? What's going on? They know. But you see, Ernest thinks that he can mama guy and lie his way through everything. So the developer is the most accommodating developer ever in the history of St. Lucia. Really? He's the most accommodating and he employed just about everybody who came for a job. But the workers themselves tell you that there's not no 500 people that were employed there, just about 100. So that tells me, St. Lucia, whether the information that they've been given in terms of employment, job creation, etc. is accurate. Because if they can exaggerate those numbers by so much, Andre, saying that these people have employed 500 people and the workers telling you is only about 100, that's 400 difference, eh? That's 400 difference. Exaggeration. Let me tell you something. Ernest Hille basically called the St. Lucian workers liars and cheats. Because he himself said that the people claimed to be something that they were not. Really, Ernest Hille? Andre, you telling me that this project has been 9 months into construction. When I saw the pictures and everything, all the structures are up. The buildings are covered. In fact, according to Ernest Hille, they are ready to create the spa. And that's why they've brought in those quote-unquote Indian workers. And I'll get to that in a little while. Because they're at the place where they need those specialized labor. So, laissez-cette si un fin fait tout bail. Yo me block. Yo plasta. Yo couvert. And I'm not even going to go into the tape of the guy who called Timothy 2 days ago to explain that some of these people don't even know how to read a tape, Andre. They were the ones who taught these people what to do and how to fix some of the problems there. They're the locals. So after they've done all the hard work, build it, lay the blocks, plaster, cover, and the project is complete, all of a sudden, they're not qualified. All of a sudden, they've done the entire work, Andre. So for the last 9 months, it took you 9 months to realize that people who say they were laborers are not skilled in laborers. And it took you 9 months to realize that people that tell you that they can lay blocks, they can't lay blocks. And it took you 9 months to realize that because the project is complete. You understand? They're opening in August. They're opening in August, Andre. Project la fini. Yo pa brise zo encore. Yo ha servi zo. Zo ha fait tout travail là-bas yo. E godia yo ka di zo pa ni skills. Ek Ernest Hille ka vin di papi show sa an lan TV ka di dat ki set lisien menti. Because yo di yo sete labouwe yo pa labouwe. Yo di yo te sa me block yo pa ha me block. That's what Ernest Hille basically said, Andre.
Well, don't you think he got that information from the developer?
But why would he get information from the developer? Get the information from your people. Get the information from them. Why are you taking the developer's word over your own people? And you used to call Alan Chasney FFF. Alan Chasney not for the people. Let me tell you something, Andre. All people tell you, as well, la vie la terre, respecte ça ou ça. Because the things you say, it will come back to you tenfold. Who's the FFF now? Who is the FFF now? You understand? Did you communicate to the workers? Did you speak to the workers? Did you call them together and find out what's going on? The fellas went on strike. They said that they cut their wages without consultation. Instead of you calling them and dialoguing and find out what's happening to your people, your St. Lucian people that you claim you love, you know what you do? You go and have a meeting with the developer and you come and repeat the same garbage that they told you on television to say, oh, they were not skilled. And hey, man, the only thing the developer is concerned about is training, to train these people. Tell me one person on that project who has been trained in any new skill in Ezile. One. I want one person to call me today as we get ready to open the lines in a while. I want one person to call me and say, oh yes, Nancy, my husband was trained under this project. They trained him because the developer is big on training. That's not what he say, Andre? Oh, the developer is big on training. That's one thing. He's concerned about training people. So they were not at the skill level, so they bring them down so they can retrain them. Ko yoga train you, Ernest? Akisa yoga train you, Feki. Where, how, when? Andre, this is a classic case that shows you that when somebody has been bought. Because he's not on the side of the laborers, he's not on the side of the workers, he's not on the side of the St. Lucian people, he's on the side of the developer. The developer has been the most accommodating. And let me tell you something, look at his face when he said it's St. Lucia. Oh, well, the Indian people they are special. I'm Indian, St. Lucian, just so you know. Bon. The Indian people they bring, they're only here because they have specialized skills in laying the floor and preparing the spas, etc. They're not going to take their jobs. And it's not much, let me see. I can't remember, but something in their teens. You can't remember? You don't know how many work permits were applied. You knew nothing about Galaxy. You didn't know how many Indian workers are there, how many Chinese are there, what's the cost of the project. Me okone tutbaya about Monpima. You cannot answer one question about Galaxy, where we're at, what's going on. Andre, do you know that for the last year, nothing has been done on Galaxy? For the last year, and these people have collected over $1 billion of our money to build a hotel and everything at a standstill down there in Canals? Go down, Andre. You are a reporter. They might allow you access. Go. Anybody go down to Canals to see and tell me, Monpima ha fini. Ek Galaxy ha collect toute la han ba CIP. Ek la pa nan ye ka fet vie fo. Anye. Honestly, I say nothing about that. And you think we'll keep quiet about that, Andre? You think St. Lucians can keep quiet about that? You think we can vote for Philip J.P.A. who says nothing about that money, Andre? Nothing is happening. Galaxy has collected the billions of dollars. No construction. Per truck, per backhoe, per excavator. Nothing is happening down there. Nobody says nothing. Not a word. Not a word. When Mr. Fenilor come here, tell Mr. Fenilor tomorrow, talk about Galaxy. We need to know what is going on with these projects. But you'll come about Monpima and the developer is accommodating and specialized skills. And I don't know how many Indiana, but just in the teens. What does the teens mean? Teens for me is teenager, Andre. I know what the teens mean. Is it 20? Is it 16? Is it 100? Is it 50? How many? And what is the specialized skills that they have that St. Lucians don't have? We want to know that and understand that. Because all of a sudden, when that story came out, somebody said to me, I thought what took by, I say Indian workers. Galaxy, Indian workers. Monpima, Indian workers. St. Jude's, Indian workers. Everything in St. Lucia now is Indian workers. Zokai bon setli si. Westella padiye. Padiye. People of my kind, my hair, my Indian people, they're coming to take over St. Lucia from y'all. Padiye. Westella. Indian workers have specialized skills in everything now. Okay. All right. When we brought the Indian workers for OKEU to do the thing, we have St. Lucians who can open the hospital. Remember that, Andre? Narayan Health. We were the ones who brought them. We brought them. They say things, Actually, took by say Indian workers. How about a problem, La pana problem with Indian workers, and nobody says anything, and we're supposed to sit back in this country and say any and everything. Andre, this is not good. This is not going anywhere, and this is not getting us anywhere. And the final thing I want to say before we open the line is the Prime Minister's pronouncement on the reduction of the levy. So for starters, Mr. Prime Minister, when I heard it, I thought to myself that maybe I was incorrect and I didn't say anything, Andre. Because the Prime Minister said that he's going to reduce the service charge of 6.5%. You heard that, right? And I said, well, to me, the service charge was 6%, not 6.5%. But I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be the one that make the boo one look foolish and stupid. You understand? So I say, okay, maybe it is. Maybe it's me that's wrong. You understand? Andre, lo and behold, this article came out by, what's his name? Nigel Eldwin. I saw it on Facebook. And I read it and I was like, so let's see, you were right. But I didn't research it or anything. If I had, I would have known that I was correct. So the service charge is 6%, Honorable Prime Minister. As Minister of Finance, you should know that. It is 6%, Mr. Philip JP, and not 6.5%. Mais ça qui fait là, how come you tell me? Tout ba ils ont disons pour exagérer, disons pour me teacher en ligne. So tout ça ou ka doni pour me teacher. So comment tu tell me, on va même di 6%, on pour di 6.5%. On pour me half en ligne encore. It is 6%, kind sir. So go back and double check and correct yourself, please, and thanks. But you see, when y'all want to make a point and they want to emphasize so much, Andre, 6.5% service charge. But here's the problem. I'm still waiting to see what the basket of goods and the SI and when it comes out, etc. But I have a problem. Because, Andre, I took this. You see the Economic and Social Review, which is the book I say to you that you use to see how the economy is doing, etc. And I'll tell you what's my problem. I'm a farmer. I have animals and I do crops as well. All right, so I know what it is that farmers go through. And the last financial year, the financial year before 2024, everything was down in agriculture, Andre. Everything. I think I came here, UWP, we have an ad running. There was a serious decline in agriculture. And when people hear agriculture, everybody think it's banana, fig. Pas fig to sell agriculture. Lan cochon, lan beef, lan cabrit, lan mouton, land pool, land Z. That is part of agriculture as well. And then you have vegetables. You have carrot and lettuce and melons and stuff like that. The things that we produce and we supply to the hotels and to the supermarkets. All this is part of farming as well. So it's not only banana. So that banana thing is for another show. But Andre, everything was in decline. But what happened is that because everything was in decline, then last financial year, everything started a little uptick. You understand? Production started going up, people desperate, so they're producing more, etc. and so forth. So I see production going up, and I'm like, okay, things are going to get a little bit better. But let me tell you, St. Lucia, farmers, it's not getting better. And the farmers have already told me that. Because you see, for a while now, my farmers who, when I go and get my animal feed, and we congregate and we talk, they telling me, Nancy Gasson, ou pa di anye bay farmer, ou pa parle bay se farmer, ou pa di anye sou am kote se farmer, nou ka pwe fe, nou ka prije, Nancy ou pa di anye, na parle bay zo hodia. Andre, the Prime Minister indicated that they were going to reduce the service charge on the importation of meats like goat meat, pork, beef, chicken, etc. and so forth. And let me tell you what the problem I have is. Andre, the price of production for us as farmers is very, very high in this country. Farmers are suffering, especially with meat production. We are suffering because what happens is when you produce, so right now, let's say I have 50 pigs in my pen, and we call them weaners, we call them fatteners. So I have some fatteners in my pen that I'm ready to sell. I have to call Peter and Company or, Massey or whoever to see where I can sell that meat. Now, what happens is that they've given something a quota. A lot of them are given a quota that they must purchase a certain amount from the local farmers before they're given a license to import. All right? Now, the quota varies. So what they do is they purchase the quota, the minimum Even if you have 1,000 pounds of meat and the quota is 500, they're buying the 1,000 from you, Andre. They're buying the 500 so they meet the quota, and then they apply for the permit so that they can now import 5,000. So the rest of the 500 pounds that you have, whoop pay. What you doing with it? Andre, the Prime Minister doesn't have his ears on the ground. Mr. Prosper don't have his ears on the ground, because if you had your ears on the ground, you would know that farmers are still suffering because we still have all kinds of meat. We have meat and we can produce the meat, but we are getting nowhere to sell it. Now, when you reduce the service charge on the importation of those meat, what are you doing, Andre? Tell me. You understand where I'm going?
Understand you.
Because we have locally, we cannot sell, but what you are doing is giving incentive for people to import more. Will the local one ever sell? You think they're going to buy from us when they can get it cheap on the foreign market? They can bring the chicken cheap, and they can get the goat cheap, and they're still selling it more expensive, by the way. You understand? Mr. Prime Minister, that can't work for us as farmers. So if you're going to reduce the 6% service charge, I think you need to reduce the service charge, the VAT, the duties, remove everything on the inputs that we as farmers utilize, both for our animals and our crop. That is the way you're going to reduce on your import bill. But when you talk about reducing import bill, you want to reduce our import bill, but you're giving reduction on service charge and reduction on VAT for people to import more of those type of things that we are producing. You're not doing nothing. Lave la mesuyate, that's what you call that, Andre. And the farmers are upset. So when I heard the Prime Minister say, oh, he met a farmer and say, I never voted before, but I'm going to vote this time, I'm like, mate, qui est-ce qui dit ça? Qui est-ce farmer qui dit ça? Farmer pas content Labour. Labour pas jamais fait bien by farmer. And that pronouncement, Mr. Prime Minister, it's not too late. I am begging you, please, renege on that. You don't need to reduce the service charge on the importation of those type of meat. We can produce, we have enough farmers. Land farmer qui ni kabrit pay denye bay qui ni yo pa hen pesko de pou vendre kabrit la. Land farmer qui ni cochon pay denye bay qui ni yo besoin sel. Yo besoin côté pour vendre viande cochon yo besoin se côté pour gagner viande cochon. Do something about that. But don't give reduction on service charge to import more of it that is going to block us local farmers from being able to sell on the local market. Ain't gonna work. Ain't gonna work. You understand, Andre? So c'est farmer. Soit Prime Minister a pas changé ça. Ouais, c'est truck driver strike. C'est Jean-Mont Piment strike. Nou kay ni pou strike. But we need help in this country. We need help in this country. And this type of policy pronouncement, Andre, it clearly shows you that this is not a government that is putting people first. This is not a government that cares about the people of this country. You understand? Because all the policies are directed at who? The financiers, the big people, the big man, the foreigners, and everything. That's who it's get at. It's not get at us. It's not get at us, the local people. It's not get at enabling us. And that is why I'm telling you, the mantra of the UWP versus the Labour Party is night and day. UWP is always thinking of, how do I teach these people to fish so they can catch their own fish so they will not have to come and trouble me for a fish. Labour Party mantra is, how do I ensure that I give them half of the fish so that they can come back and take the other half, and I always keep feeding them and having them come to me so they can be beholden to me. That's the difference between UWP and Labour. We always thinking of, how do we improve the lives of people? How do we enable people so that they can be their own, they can be the creators of their own destiny? How do we ensure that people in St. Lucia will not be relying on politicians for the daily living? So we create and generate economic activity in this country to ensure people can live and survive. We want, as UWP, people to make their own money. We don't want them to come and ask us for money. That is our mantra. That is the vision of UWP from the time of Sir John, passed on all the way now to Alan Chasney. How do we ensure we create economic opportunities for people to benefit from the economy so that they can make their own self? That's the difference between Labour and UWP. Now, Andre, it's 10:28. We would like to open the line. I still have a lot more I can talk about. That, all these promises that the Labour Party made about giving the 1,500. You saw the lady, she went live and said, well, I don't get the money yet, where mine? Now Labour Party want to give you land that you've occupied for over 30 years. Now they want to remove the service charge. Now they want to pay school fees for children. But let me tell you, Andre, principals, I got messages. One thing, St. Lucia, they're messaging me. Principals are messaging me and telling me, I had to read this one before we open the line, Andre, and telling me that, they say they're going to pay the school fees for the children, but up to now, some of us don't get the money from the ministry yet. Because remember, Andre, like I explained to you last time, when you as a parent come and you pay, the school get the money directly and they do their thing. Now that the government say and quote-unquote claim they're paying it, they have to wait for a subvention from the ministry to give them. Just subvention up over. But let me give you the killer before we open the line. Somebody sent me a message a couple of days ago and said to me, let me read it to you. Nancy, I usually listen to Meet the Opposition, especially when you're on. Just to inform you, the new negotiations that the government boasts about, effective April 2025. Remember, they say they negotiated and they're giving you 13%. You pa break it down and you do 13%. Fairmont say 13%. Has up to this date not been signed. The agreement of fringe benefits where civil servants has lost both April and May. Now they say they will sign it on June 17th. And so these 3 months will be lost as payments effective, because the payment will become effective in July. So they're boasting they signed this new agreement and try and yam, blah, da, da, etc., etc. Now, this is a message sent to me. If this is not correct, and the government has in fact signed the agreement, and the civil servants has in fact received their fringe benefits that were agreed upon, call me and let me know. But I trust this person. So this person says to me the agreement has not been signed and civil servants have not been able to get their fringe benefits. Those of you who are civil servants I have on my WhatsApp, send me a message and tell me, Nancy, it's true, that's true. Let me see. Andre, let's open the line. Remind the callers what the numbers are.
Sure, no
and
problem.
We'll take some calls.
Okay, the fixed line is 572-9710. Fixed line 572-9710. Or you can call the WhatsApp platform at 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. Again, the fixed line 572-9710 or WhatsApp 287-0971. And you have a call on the WhatsApp platform.
Good morning, caller. Thank you for calling Meet the Opposition. While I'm listening to you, I'm reading all the messages I get on my phone.
Hello.
Yes, how you guys doing?
We're doing well, caller.
Yeah. Morning to you, sir.
Yes, morning, Andre. Let me tell you guys, very interesting, very, very interesting. It's something when you see the shoe is on the other foot, because for you to tell me you love your people so much that you're going against them, there's nothing wrong with actually training people.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, you're going to find something is just not right, even with the company, not just the minister saying what he's saying. I can just divulge a little bit to enlighten people here.
Mm-hmm.
Andre and Nancy, before you can even employ someone, isn't there some procedures a big company like that would have to go through, especially based on that magnitude of the building?
Mm-hmm.
When you look in the background, aren't the buildings built already?
They're built already, caller.
All right. Now there are two fishy things there.
Mm-hmm.
The guys are not qualified, quote unquote, by the minister.
Mm-hmm.
However, the buildings are being built.
And they're completed, caller. They're ready for the final finishing.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's what I'm getting into. Andre and Nancy, we need to pay attention in the country. The minister is at it again. He's at it again. How is it a big project like that, allegedly, because I do not have the information before me, that they're not paying NIC for workers that are employed for over 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like think of that for a minute. You know, how are these guys being paid? Are they being paid under the table?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm asking all these questions because I heard one of the employees, he didn't hire, no, two of them actually, blatantly said on the report that these guys claim to buy the government, right? Now, if two people can reference to that, and the minister himself can come out in the favor of the developer,
right?
Not knowing that not realizing that these guys have been working for 8 months, guys, 8 months. So we can safely say or assume that monies have been going under the table.
It seems
there is
so.
no
It
HR.
Seems so.
There is
it
no
seems so to
HR
me,
involved. It doesn't make sense, guys. Like what is really happening with this project? How is this project being funded? Who are those investors? Why are these investors not worried about how their money is being spent? Guys, there's a lot of ethics that is not being met when it comes to, again, what the minister said and based on the report, because we all can see in the report that those buildings are built. They're not in the process of being built. They are built. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. Somebody sent me a message and said to me, why didn't the developer train the people from the start? All the donkey work is over and now they don't need our people. So the best way to dismiss them was to lower their pay for them to leave on their own. And that's a strategy as well. I agree with you, caller. Because if you lower their pay, the people will get vexed. So they say, you understand? So they'll claim and say, well, I didn't fire them. They worked out on the job. You understand, Andre? That's tricks of the trade. You know, and these are the things that the minister should have been looking to. I am disappointed in Ernest Hilaire that Ernest Hilaire did not take time to speak to the workers, find out what is really going on, and you take the developer's word and come out on media and defend the developer over your people. I mean, let me tell you something. They call you a matlo. They don't call you a matlo for no bad reason, no? A matlo some way. Good morning, caller. Thank you for calling Meet the Opposition.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Can you hear me? AP, partner, what are you saying?
Yes, we're okay. Thanks for calling.
All right, you'll pick it up later. Okay, all right. Good morning to all. You know, I just wanted to touch on a few things that was said earlier concerning custody suites, but just more recently. Ms. Charles, you said that, the pay administration's policies are not, this is what you said, are not geared towards us, meaning the average solutions, right?
Yes, Riani, that's what I said.
I just want to ask you, who benefits when parents don't have to pay for 4 CXC subjects starting this year? Who benefits from the recently implemented minimum wage? Who benefits from the increase in the pensions? The NIC pensions are going up in July. Who benefits when temporary teachers get their salaries in August for the first time? Who benefits when parents don't have to pay facility fees?
So Riani, let me stop you there. So these Riani, let me stop you there. Hello?
Are reduced by $100.
Riani, this is my show, so I'm stopping you there. So if you don't want to stop, I'll cut you off.
It's your show. Okay.
Yes. So when Mr. Fenilor comes tomorrow, you can talk about all these benefits, etc. You can talk about all these benefits, but I want you to answer me the questions now. Who benefits when the government takes $4 million to rebuild a holding cell for prisoners, when OKEU has no medication, when the doctors can write, when the Medical and Dental Association can write, such as Kevin letter saying we don't have Tylenol, we don't have bandage, we don't have these basic things. Who's benefiting?
All right. So let's go there. Let's look at this. But you know something? I'm curious, eh?
Yes.
Do you have evidence of police officers using the former custody suites to detain people they don't like because it's a hellhole?
Riani, I think you as a former reporter, maybe you should go back into your archives, because I'm sure people like you would have reported on persons who had made those allegations, on officers who had made those allegations, on citizens who would have made those allegations. And it's not far back, but your memory, we need to jog your memory, because you've been a reporter for a television station for a few years, and you would know of those stories, Riani, of people making these allegations. Do I have any evidence myself? Never been arrested. Have you been arrested, Riani? Maybe you can tell us. But I have never been arrested. I've never been to custody suite, so I cannot tell you. I have no evidence. But maybe somebody like you can tell us.
Yeah. What I will tell you is you are incorrectly stating that custody suites cost $13 million to
Actually, I corrected it. It was $1.5 million initially, and it went up to $4.5 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if it was ever $1.5 million.
It was the initial, because the initial report that came out, you're in the Prime Minister's office, find out. The initial report that came out when it was being built and they announced it the first time was $1.5 million. And then the second report, it now came out to 4.5. Am I correct in that? Or is it more than 4.5?
Just to move on about something you said.
No, how much did it cost, Riani? Can you tell us how much did it cost?
Yeah, the Prime Minister mentioned during the inauguration of the new facility last Friday that it cost in the region of $5 million.
Oh, 5, not 4.5. My bad. I stand corrected.
$5 million to construct what is likely to be the most modern facility in the Eastern Caribbean.
And that's what we want to boast about, Riani? A modern holding cell?
You know what? And the Commissioner of the Police made it clear during the inauguration ceremony last Friday that this was a needed facility, and the former Commissioner of Police, his predecessor, also is on record as stating that reconstructing this facility was necessary, was essential for the effective management of security in our city center. Because, you referenced my tenure, my history as a reporter. I'll say something to you. The police have indicated that the destruction of the former custody suites did cause challenges, did cause logistical challenges.
Well, I don't know that we ever said it would not have caused challenges. And Riani, let's hold on, Riani. Hold on. We never, ever said that it was not going to cause logistical challenges, that when you had prisoners that you needed to hold for the 24 or the 48 hours, and that it would not cause the challenge. And I think if you listen to my statement, I said very clearly that the police officers said that there was sufficient space at the various holding cells across the area close to the city, and that they would have been able to make that sacrifice because they wanted to get rid of that little hellhole that we had. But let's move on, and let me ask you one final question because I have other callers. I did read a message from somebody who said that the bargaining agreement or the new agreement that the government agreed to has still not been signed, and public servants are complaining because they have not received the fringe benefits for the month of April, May, June, and it is suggested that it will be signed 17th of June, so they'll get the benefits all the way in July. Is that accurate or correct? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I'll have to get more information, but if you're saying it's supposed to be signed on the 17th of June, we're still in May, so I suspect there's still a little bit of time to get that finalized.
Okay, well, tell us, when you find out, tell us what the delay is, because if everything was agreed to, I'm not too sure why there's such a delay. Thank you, Riani. We have to take some other call. Thank you for calling. Maybe next week you can call in, okay? Thank you, bye. Do we have another call, Andrew?
I didn't actually recognize his voice when he called.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay, you have another call.
Good morning, caller. Thank you for calling Meet the Opposition.
Good morning, Nancy, and good morning, Andre.
Good morning.
Andre, you under the weather?
A little.
You need to drink some honey and lime, Andre.
I should have brought him some honey and lime when I was coming up from down south, caller.
Exactly. This is Andre.
Lime is not in season.
Andre, I have lime by my home, Andre. I'm from country, Andre. I'm from country.
You have honey as well?
My next door neighbor does honey production, actually. Go ahead, caller.
A little moment of levity quickly,
of
Andre. These days you don't frequent the Shabins, Andre.
That's his healing, caller. That's his healing.
It's good for my health.
I find the viruses have been attacking you of late, Andre.
Anyway, caller, let's go on with it.
Anyway,
what's on your mind
quickly,
today?
What's on my mind quickly? I want to say, you see, sorry to for that tone. People like Rihanna Isidore are shameful, are shameless, I want to ask Rihanna Isidore a pertinent question, and it's our business, respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the unscrupulous contractor they awarded that custody suites contract?
Okay.
Who is the unscrupulous contractor who is allegedly from the underworld that they awarded that $5 million contract to construct custody suites? Who is that contractor? I leave it right there for now. I want to bring something to your attention, Andrew and Nancy. And Nancy, are you aware what's happening at the Sulphur Foundation at the Sulphur Springs?
Well, I wanted to go there, caller. I really wanted to speak about that, but I know that, and Andre, I apologize in advance. It's a competing station, but you don't have the program. But Harold Stanislas is going to be on Hot FM tonight on D Conway to speak about what has been happening in the foundation. And yesterday he did speak about it on Timothy's program. So, yes, I am very much aware as to what is happening and the level of victimization that's happening at the Sulphur Foundation and the increase of fees, etc.
Right. I was talking about the increase of the fees, the vending fees. Here it is that you have this government, this Labour Party government, which was their mantra. Putting people first, we care about people, we life solutions. And to tell me in 2025, you have those single mothers there, which Mr. Stanislas indicated. Most of the vendors there are single people, single mothers. They were paying a rental, Andrew, for a month, $50 a month. And up come the secret deal, GPH. And now the vendors are being told that their rental rate that they would have to pay monthly has jacked up from $50 to $250. How is that putting people first? Tell me. According to what Mr. Harold Stanislas explained yesterday, these are single people, single mothers who are struggling to make ends meet. The cost of living is already high. High. People are struggling to make ends meet. There's no soulagement coming from this Labour Party government. Gas prices continue to remain at $16 a gallon at the pump, where you see all OECS other countries have brought down the price of gas. And you have those, and when there's those same single mothers, those vendors who have to face the supermarket. And Andre, you do a lot of grocery shopping, and Nancy, unlike Philippe, who said he doesn't go to the supermarket. Yeah. The prices is exorbitant, and those single mothers, they were paying $50 for their vending booth, their rental. And now the Sulphur Foundation, so wicked, have increased their vending and their rental from $50 to $250. How is this Labour Party government putting any poor person first?
Let me tell you something that has not even come in. My information is that the cruise ship season is going to be significantly reduced next year. So we have less boats coming in next year. Now, the minister will not tell you that. But you see, because I'm involved in the sector and I supply to certain persons, etc., I'm getting that information. And so these people in Sulphur, they rely heavily on the cruise sector. So when you increase the fees, not by $50, not by $100, you increase it 3 times what the price was. When you know the next season, Andrew, we're going to have less cruise ship coming in, we're going to have a reduction in how many passengers coming in, etc., and so forth. So how you expect them to make ends meet? And again, we see all the time. Caller, I can certainly say to you and to St. Lucia, I've been traveling a lot. And every island you go to, Andre, unfortunately, a lot of the things that are being sold are the same. You understand? So they go to St. Martin, they go to Grenada, etc. So when they come, sometimes by the time, depending on what leg of the journey St. Lucia is at, they've already purchased a T-shirt, a turtle, a this, a that. So it's also very challenging for the vendors in sales, and they've spoken about that as well. Sales are down. People come, They pay to go inside, but they don't really purchase so much stuff, from the vendors. So they really have to hustle to make ends meet. And you're increasing the fees just because you all need to be able to pay yourself a retiree in some OJ, thousands of dollars. And you're bringing everybody into the foundation. They created a position for my very good friend, Mr. Saltybus. They created a position, bring him into the foundation. Created a position. You have lovely Amy. You have all. This morning I was thinking, Andre, mostly every reporter that I know that who had been out there are in government, in some statutory corporation or in some ministry, wherever. Creating position. You all don't have money to pay them, so you will increase the fees on the vendors.
And at the expense of the poor single vendors.
Yep.
So now the vendors, they were paying $50 for their vending booth. They now have to find $250. That is unconscionable. That is wicked.
But not only that, caller, remember that the bulk of the money for landing fees and everything in Soufrière used to go to the foundation. Who is it going to now?
Exactly.
GPH is the one collecting the money, so the foundation is not getting that money anymore. And so now they have to get it somewhere else, Andre. You see the impact of the GPH deal? It's already starting,
And I was going to ask a pertinent question. I'm only asking a question quickly. Was that part of the secret meeting that Emma Hippolyte had with the officials of GPH?
Well, she'll know because voting is secret as well, and I'm caller. A vote is secret, The old people tell you they're blind can vote. Ikai hen secret la, worry.
Let me just say quickly, I know other persons want to call. I'm just want to put a plug. I don't know if Andre might want to I can send Andre will send his bill to me. But just to say we have to right that wrong. And so the New York Floorball Caucus, we're having our fundraiser, our domino competition tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. And the location, the venue is at 154 Utica Avenue between Prospect Place and St. Mark. It's $20 a game. And as persons register to play, to participate in the domino competition, the cash prize will increase. And so we're urging all floorballers in Brooklyn, New York, and the environs to come out tomorrow evening and support the New York Floorball Caucus as we embark on our fundraising activities to assist our party, the United Workers' Party, and so that we will be in a better position, our party and ourselves, to right that wrong.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. I wish I was up there. I play some really good dominoes. I'm a very good domino player. I would win that cash prize.
Also, you would have given me a sapat?
Oh, yeah. Not one sapat. Not one.
Sure you can play dominoes?
Of course. How you mean?
All right.
Thank you, caller. Have a good day. And good luck with the activity.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for calling.
We have another caller. Yes. Good morning, caller. Thank you for calling Meet the Opposition.
Good morning to you, Nancy, and good day to you, Mr. Paul.
Good morning.
Sir.
All right, Nancy, I have a question, and I want to...
Is that my favorite caller from Canada? That's not him?
Nancy, what's up? You caught off, Nancy. What's up? Rainforest Adventure.
Okay.
Oui. So, Nancy, what I want to ask is about the GPH. Now, honestly, I appreciate when we have investors coming into St. Lucia and they're helping with other projects apart from what we know we're supposed to do. And we have the example with Hess, when right now we walk all over St. Lucia, drive around, and we see the footprints of Hess all over St. Lucia. But my problem is, and you listen to Richard Frederick, and you heard what he said, and where he said a source of funds for rebuilding the plaza on Jeremy Street is coming from GPH. Did you hear that as well?
Oh, I didn't hear that one, caller.
Well, the same news clip we have saying that if the tenant was good, that they have no problem getting the lease. He said that GPH is the one funding that project. Now, for me personally, I have a serious problem with that.
Okay.
If GPH want to assist St. Lucia with other projects apart from what they get in with all of the money from the port, they could do more human resource centers and other things that will benefit the people of St. Lucia. CCC has a responsibility when they build those things, they rent it, they collect monies. And if they have to renovate it, I believe CCC should be in a position to do their work. So I don't see why GPH have to come in. So you could follow up with that clip, Nancy, and listen to the minister saying, and yes, the project was funded by GPH.
Okay, I'll follow up on it. Caller. But there's nothing that this minister say that really is true. That we believe. But in any event,
in the light of Richard you know, we have the new Taiwanese ambassador, which is a lady, the first one we have in here. And I personally witnessed the lady on the ground in Catherine Central with Richard. And even the way he was portraying the lady, for me, I find it was a bit disrespectful. So I'm hoping and I'm waiting to see the other ministers have this lady in the ground in the different constituencies, walking around and showing things they need to be done.
But I don't know why you disappointed. Why you disappointed in Richard Collar? Richard has no class. Richard has no decorum. So I don't know why you would expect anything from him.
I know you have no class. That's why he went all the way to Dubai, and not even as a foreign minister, but the Kai invité minister sport visit.
Mais l'équipe ministre tout bail, l'équipe ministre, l'équipe charge gouvernement, l'équipe charge.
No, decorum. Si ba iti vendor, si bagay tabawe kon ka fete live like this pour Anyway, Nancy, you take care.
Thank you, caller. Yes, thank you, caller. We have another call.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. Thank you for calling Meet the Opposition.
Yes, good morning, Nancy.
Good morning.
And I just wanted to start off by saying a vote for St. Lucia Labour Party is a vote for Richard Frederick. And now, the reason why I say that, Nancy, there's two factions in the St. Lucia Labour Party right now, and that is a fact. There's a Philip JPF faction and the Richard Frederick faction. The Richard Frederick faction is Richard Frederick, Stevenson King, Joachim Henry, Bebe, and Wayne Girard. And the PJP faction is Ernest Hill and the rest that makes up the St. Lucia Labour Party. Oh. That's what Kenny knows. So now the situation is, Nancy and your listeners, just imagine yourself that, because you know there's a party, Nancy, remember what Stevenson King did to Alan Shastney with the road situation? Are you not seeing that is the same thing they're doing?
Same thing they're doing.
That is happening for Philip JP. And who's on the show say right now? Which road that been fixed up on the show say? Richard Frederick always have to look good while Philip JP looks bad.
Okay.
But here's the other thing again, Nancy. The situation right now is, can you imagine Richard Frederick being the Prime Minister of St. Lucia? And you remember Kenny Anthony said that never be surprised of what happened in politics.
But
can you imagine?
Caller, let me stop you there. You don't have to imagine, because Richard Frederick is the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. When was the last time you heard the Prime Minister respond to anything if it's not Richard that respond to it? Richard in charge of everything. Richard respond to everything. Richard at every ceremony. Richard speaks at everything. Richard is the mouthpiece for the Prime Minister. So
exactly. Now, and one more point I wanted to make, Nancy, before I leave. Now, that book you were speaking about, that blueprint plan for St. Lucia, Sir John made. I had a sneak peek of that view, that book where roads would be passing at the in the mountain of the bad lane, just like how they did it on Tunnel Road, and the other road open on the east end and whatnot. And something that had me specifically is the port hub at cul-de-sac, that we would have removed the commercial part where all the containers would have gone down.
For sure.
And you know, we had a port hub. We had that idea long before the Jamaicans did that, because you know why? St. Lucia is strategic in a way where we don't even need to sell our passports anymore, Nancy, because if we now, with the new global trend that is happening, we change up our economy in terms of being a massive storage for oil and gas for boats that's passing through the Caribbean Sea into the Panama Canal, from the Panama Canal to West Africa to Europe. We can have the port hub here. We can do those different things. We even have friends like Taiwan. Why can we not do leverage by investment? Taiwan just need us to represent them at the UN. Why not fully recognize Taiwan as an independent country? And we already have things in place with the Americans in case China want to put aggression. But Taiwan has to invest the chips manufacturing
and things like that. You know, it's a tit for tat. I agree with you, caller. And these are some of the things that Alan Shastney was bringing to the table, and he was ridiculed for trying to get us to be innovative and creative and think outside of the box. So, caller, for example, the container port you speak about, we had extensive discussion, and we had also identified a location down in cul-de-sac to remove all those containers in the city, and that was going to alleviate the problem that you currently have at the port with the truckers now going on strike. It takes so long, congestion, etc., etc. But again, you see, we don't want to dream and have a vision of doing things better. together and Labour Party come and just stop and crash everything. Unfair by tea boutique. That's what Labour Party does. Tea boutique. Alan Shasney thinks of a shopping mall and Labour Party thinks of a tea boutique. That's what they are. That's the difference.
Well, Nancy, now you know, before I leave, what I just wanted to say is that we now have the opportunity, everybody that is listening, to do what is right. Because if we had just put ourselves in this, just follow the Alan Shasney trend, we would have been much further than what we are today.
For sure. Thank you, caller. Thank you for that.
The United Workers Party must stand up with the truckers, call upon the bus drivers, call upon everybody, because it is a mess. And it will not fix up anytime soon. So like I tell them, just imagine a man like Richard Frederick being the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, not behind the shadows, and the actual one. Because if SLP win that next general election, Philip JP has to step down and make Richard Frederick the Prime Minister. And that is a fact.
Thank you, caller. We're running out of time, callers.
Yes,
I know
we're out of time.
That we were able to take quite a few calls today, so I'm very happy that we were able to hear from a lot of our callers. I think.
And by the way, there's still more calls coming through. Both lines.
I'm so sorry, callers, but it's 10 o'clock. I'm sorry, it's 11 o'clock and we really have to go and we cannot take any more calls. So hopefully next week, some of the questions you have, you will share them with Spider, who's going to be here. I'm not too sure if he's going to have a guest as yet. But I will be out for a little while. So thank you so much for accommodating me and welcoming me back for the last 2 weeks. It was a pleasure being with you. It was a pleasure being on the show this morning. And I think St. Lucia, this weekend, we have an activity happening. We call it Sisters of the South. It's a grand fundraising community night, we call it. It's dinner and it's bingo and it's karaoke and dancing. Actually, Andrea, we'll have to get you one of these days to do old school country for the community night.
I have an activity coming up next month in Sulphur.
Yes. I think I heard that being announced. Okay, all right, good. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have... I will be there. We have Sisters of the South happening. The tickets are only $50. So if you need ticket, message me. Send me a WhatsApp message, anybody, and I will make arrangements for you to get your tickets. So please come out and support the United Workers Party. But not only that, come out and have a great time. I will be there. Come, let's see if we can have a little jig. I can dance country and western, you know, country. Yeah, man, I'm a good country and western dancer.
You'll have to prove that.
So come down to Labrie this weekend. That's where all road leads to, and let's have a good time. Thank you so much, St. Lucia. This has been another episode of Meet the Opposition. I hope you stay safe. I hope, Andre, I think I heard there was another murder sometime during the weekend. I was like, oh my God, again, somebody stabbed or something like that. St. Lucia, please, we need to be safe in this country. We need to learn anger management, and we just need to learn to do things differently. We can't continue with this type of crime in this country. So, stay safe, enjoy your weekend, and see you soon. I don't know when, but soon. Bye.
Okay, Nancy, we're wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Andre.
Okay, whatever it is that you're up to. Safe travels, etc., etc.
Oh, okay? Andre, somebody said, tell Andre I have a ticket for him for Saturday. Hey, the caller, the ticket has to be by 2. Andre has a partner, okay? He's not single. He's not free and single. 2 tickets for Andre, okay? Please and thanks. Good. Andre, we have 2 tickets for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, you've been listening to and viewing Meet the Opposition live on Rev-Up St. Lucia. Join us again next week, Thursday, same time from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for another Meet the Opposition. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock is going to be Meet the Minister. And on Meet the Minister tomorrow, the special guest will be the Honorable Emma Hippolyte. So the special guest on Meet the Minister tomorrow will be Honorable Emma Hippolyte, MP for Soufrière for Sajan. So up next we have Tony Paul. He'll be with you until 3 o'clock this afternoon. As always, from 3 until 6, going to be Zen the DJ. Andre Paul saying thank you so much for listening and have yourself a great day. So long.